Hi, this is Dave and welcome to the Table, a series of videos where I review and discuss various board and card games, looking at them from a family perspective. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Legend of the Five Rings edition of Love Letter. This is the latest edition of Love Letter with artwork that is set in the Legend of the Five Rings world. And so this is a 2 to 4 player social deduction game where each of you are playing the role of a young samurai who is trying to win the affection of the princess to marry into her, and your clan will secure the high position in the Emerald Empire. So let's take a look at this game and how it's played, and I'll come back and I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, let's quickly take a look at the components that come in this edition of Love Letter, The Legend of the Five Rings. And first of all, I want to talk about the packaging for this game, and it is a marriage of the previous versions that have been released. The first edition that was released by AEG, the Tempest edition, came in a blister pack, and the cards were able to be stored in a red velvet pouch. And then they released the Kanai limited edition, factory edition, and that was packaged in a box. Well, now you see we have both in this particular version of the game. So we have a nice two-piece telescoping box here, and we also have this velvet pouch. Now this particular one here is a nice deep like forest green with some yellow embroidering, and on the back we have all of the clan symbols from Legend of the Five Rings. These are the 5 rings here that are it's embroidered on the back of the pouch, so it looks good on both sides. Now we have 13 tokens of affection that come with this game, these little wooden cubes here, and these are what each of the players are going to be competing over in order to win the favor of the princess. Next we have a nice 30-page rule book, and explains how to play. And then in the back, if you're not familiar with the story of Legend of the Five Rings, there is a little backstory for each of the players that are in this particular game. So just a little bit more reading and gives you a little more depth into the game itself. Now, there is a list of cards here, and each of these reference cards here has the name and value of each of the players that are in the game, as well as their abilities, and then in parentheses there is how many of each of those cards are in the game. Now finally onto the deck itself, and again this is just absolutely beautiful artwork here. If you look here, and I'll just kind of pan through each of them. Here's the Courtier, the Diplomat, we have the Shugenja, we have the Hatamoto, we have the Manipulator, we have the Sensei, and we have the Princess. Now, one of the nice changes in this particular edition, and I'm going to zoom this in here, and if you notice on the card below the value, which is number 1 for this guard, there is 5 of these clan symbols that are on the side over here, and that signifies that there are 5 cards in this particular deck. So if we look at another card here after the guard, the Courtier, there are only 2 of them in there. So this is a great way to quickly look at the card and be able to tell how many of them are in play. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Love Letter, let me quickly go over the abilities of each of the cards. And so we start off with the guard, and he has a value of 1. And it says, name a non-guard card and choose another player, and if that player has that card, he or she is out of the round. So you can use him as part of your deduction to call on another player, ask them if they have a particular card, and if they do, they have to reveal it, and they are out of that particular round. So there's 5 of those in the deck. Next, we have this Courtier, which allows you to look at another player's hand. We have the Diplomat that says you and another player secretly compare hands, and the player with the lower value is out of the round. We have the Shugenja, and it says until your next turn, ignore all effects from other players' cards. So this is kind of a safety net card that you can play. We have the Hatamoto, which says choose any player, including yourself, to discard his or her hand and draw a new card. We have the manipulator that says trade hands with another player of your choice. And we have this sensei here. It says, if you have this card and the manipulator or Hatamoto in your hand, you must discard this card. So he can kind of get you in trouble a little bit. And then finally we have the princess, and if you discard this card, you are out of the round. So if you discard the princess, you're out for that particular round. Okay, let me quickly shuffle up these cards and I will show you how to play. Okay, so I have gone ahead and I have shuffled up this deck of cards here, and I'm going to show you how to play this as a 4-player game, and quickly I will show you the way to play for 2 players as well. But what we will do is we shuffle these up, and then right away you will remove the top card from play. And so now there's only 15 cards that we'll be playing with instead of 16, so we don't know which is out of the game. Now, what will happen is each player will in turn be dealt 1 card face down. And then they will determine the first player, and they suggest that the last person to have gone on a date will be the first player. But for the purpose of this demonstration here, this player right here will be the first player. So let's look at their hand here, and we happen to have one of those guard cards. Now, on our turn, what we will do is we will draw a card, and so now we will have 2 cards in our hand. Now we have to play one of the cards. So, and you can work on these in a specific combination. Now, if I have this one here that says, look at another player's hand, and I have this guard here where it says name a non-guard card and choose another player. If I choose to look at something and I find out that they don't have a guard in their hand, if they don't play that card the next round, chances are I will be able to eliminate them. So I'm going to play this right up front, and I will say, I will play the Courtier, and it says look at another player's hand. So let's look at the player to my right's hand, and we will see what they have. Oh, and they have a Courtier as well. So then the next player will in turn do the same thing. They will draw a card, and so now they have 2 cards here, and they will in turn play one. And so they could choose another player. Maybe they're going to play this one right here, and it says choose any player including yourself to discard her hand and draw a new card. So maybe we're going to make this player back here discard their hand, and so they will just play it face up here, and they will draw another card. And then on their turn, they will draw a card. So they always have, when they go into play, they have 2 cards in their hand. Now we have the you and another player secretly compare hands. The player with the lower value is out of the round. You are going to win. So what this player here will do is they will play this card, and they will play it on top so that you can always like sequentially see where cards are played. And it says you and another player secretly compare hands. The player with the lower value is out of the round, so maybe they're going to compare hands with this particular player over here. They look. Obviously, the 8 is higher than the 4. This goes back, and this player now is out of the round. Again, this player here now will have their card. They will draw a card at the beginning of their turn. And for example, here, if they say, if he wants to look at another player's hand here, he can do the same thing and look at this particular player here and sees that he has a guard. Again, we come back around here, draw a card and play. We've got 2 guards in our hand. And play this guard here, naming the player across, ask them if maybe they have a diplomat, another diplomat in their hand. And they'll look at their hand and they'll say, oh, nope, I don't. And so the play will continue over here. This one will draw another card here, and they have a guard in their hand. So they'll play this guard here. They'll ask, okay, this player over here, do you have a Hatamoto? Look at the card. No, they don't. Player here will draw a card here. And so now we've got a 1 and a 7. And we play this one here. And they'll continue to, they'll ask, okay, do you have the manipulator? And they'll look and they'll say, no, I don't. This one over here will draw a card here, and he has the manipulator here, so he'll play this, and he's going to trade hands with the player across from him. So Now this one here has the princess, probably a bad move now, because what's going to happen is he will draw the card, draw a card here, and he will look. We have this one here. He's going to play it and say, you have the princess. Boom. He's out of the round. And then it's going to go back and forth. Now it's just between these two cards here. He's going to draw a card here, and he's going to play this one here that's going to secretly compare hands. And if you look here, the 7 will beat this 4 over here. So this one's out, and he wins, and he will get a token of affection. And this is going to continue to go around until the first player reaches 4 of these cubes. Now, this one we happen to go through all of the cards in the deck, and so if you go through the whole deck of cards and there's still players playing, then what they will do is they will compare values of the cards, which is what we did here between this 7 and this 4. Even though this one here we played the ability from the Diplomat, but still at the end we would do this and this one would still win. Now another way to win is in the round, if it's shorter, is to go through and eliminate all the players earlier on. And so I played this out even though I was playing as one player, knew what all the cards were. I just wanted to give a demonstration as to how to play. At the end of that particular round, we'll take all the cards here, including the one that was out of play, and we will shuffle them up and we will deal them out again. Now, if you are playing a 2-player game, there is a slight variation in how you play. So if I take these 2 out of the way and we were to play a 2-player game, what we will do here is shuffle up the deck, and I will remove the 1 card from play like we're supposed to, and then what I will do is I will reveal 3 more cards face up that come out of the deck. So you at least see what these other 3 cards are that are in play, and then play will continue again, being dealt 1 here, and then on their turn drawing a card and playing and so forth. So that is how you play Love Letter. Okay, let's talk about Love Letter. And the first thing I want to say is that Love Letter is the game that put micro games on the map. So this is the one that started it all, and there have been plenty of designers and publishers that have been putting together games and releasing them, chasing after this one. Now those games have also been greeted with success, but this is the one that started it all. So let me talk about Love Letter here. And first of all, let me start off with the packaging and the artwork. And I like the fact that they decided to include both the velvet pouch and the box to store them in, because a lot of times I try to keep my games safe and secure, and that blister package, sometimes it just doesn't click close and then it'll fall out, whereas in the box you can keep everything nice and safe. So that was a nice move for them to release this edition with using both the pouch inside and the box. Now the artwork for this particular version is the best of the 3 versions that have been released so far. The original version that AEG released here was the Tempest edition, and that artwork is very, very nice, and it gave it a regal appearance, and you had the princess and then all of her court. And then they released the Kanai Factory edition, which was the original Japanese art, which was a bit more, almost looked like watercolors a little bit, so it was kind of sketchy. Things were kind of not really in the inside the lines, and so it gave the game a different feel, and it gave it that it gave it a more of a like a childish grasp to it, which was fine. So it gives the same game a different bit of flavor. Now finally this one, the Legend of the 5 Rings, this is super, super rich. I mean, I showed you the cards in the overview, and the artwork is just so beautiful, and just the color tones and everything, the artwork is just fantastic, and it really gives this game just such a regal feel. And then again, using the velvet pouch, it just gives it that royal treatment. So the artwork again is amazing on this. Gameplay is the same for all 3 versions of the game, the only difference being the wording on the 7 value card for the Kanai Factory edition. It says, if at any time you have a hand value of 12 or more, if you're holding that one, you have to discard that particular card. Well, the only way that you're going to get to a value of 12 is holding either the 5 or 6 in your hand with it. So the gameplay is the same for all three versions, you just have different characters along the way. Now, this game, if I look at this game from a family perspective, there are two major elements that make this game worth having. And that is, number one, it's very social. You have everybody together, you are reading and executing actions all the time, and secondly, this game is, you have to think, because it is a deduction game, so you have to use your brain. You have to use the process of elimination to figure out what cards have been played, what cards are in your hand, and what cards you think other players may have as well. And so the further on into the game, the more cards that are revealed face up, you will see what has been played, and so in your mind you'll know what cards are left. And so you can also use that little reference card there to help keep your mind in check as to what cards are still out there. But you do have to think on this game. Now, the gameplay for this is very fast. I mean, you can knock out a game in as little as 10 minutes. And certain rounds can be played, they could be finished on an opening hand. If you're playing a two-player game, I was playing last night with my daughter. The first thing I did was I played a guard card. I said, "Do you have the Hatamoto?" And she did. So I was able to eliminate her in the first round and win one of those tokens of affection. So gameplay is very fast. This game is very portable too, and this is my favorite game to take when I'm going out, like with friends or family, if we're going to a restaurant or whatever, because the gameplay is it's so fast, and so we can play a game between the time we order our food and when the entrees arrive. We've already completed a game, and it's also light enough that you can carry on conversations with people and you're not deeply immersed in something. So it lends that great aspect as well. So again, I love Love Letter. This is one of my top games that I have ever played. I love the concept of this whole deduction thing, and then only having 16 cards in the game. It's light enough that way, but it's a lot of fun, and you just want to keep playing it and playing it. So if you are interested in Love Letter, or if you've never played Love Letter, get this edition right here. This one has the best artwork. It's going to look the nicest when you play it, in my opinion. Or get all three versions like I have, and so you can change it up depending on your mood. But again, this is Love Letter, Legend of the Five Rings edition from AEG. Alright, that's it for now. Join me again next time as we take a look at another game and we see how it makes it to the table.